This is Two Chicks Talkin Flicks, where we review movies. Love them or hate them, someone's got to do it. So enjoy the show. Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is Two Chicks Talkin Flicks, anything else that gets in the mix. And today I'm here with Avery from the Unbound Rewound Podcast. How are you doing, Avery?
I am doing amazing. I'm so happy to be able to talk to you today and to get to know your audience a little bit more.
Yes, and so mine can get to know you better. What is your podcast about?
Yeah, so it is the Unbound and Rewound horror podcast, or like I say, it's your horror podcast because it is where you get all of your horror needs. I'm talking books, I'm talking movies, whatever your horror fix is, I talk about it, except for video games, just because I'm not a gamer myself.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. What is your favorite kind of horror movie?
That is definitely a tricky one, because I do like all of them. However, you can never go wrong with a classic slasher movie. Right. I love Scream. I love Halloween, and it's something that you can just put on, and it might sound crazy, but it can be relaxing.
Yeah. One of my favorite, horror movies that doesn't get a lot of play is Sleepaway Camp. I have the whole box set. Oh my goodness, Sarah. Yes, I did. Okay. So, I had seen Sleepaway Camp before, but I was doing an episode on it, and I realized after watching Friday the 13th that Sleepaway Camp is the superior summer slasher. Right?
Like, Friday the 13th is just not beating it.
No. Especially the twist at the end.
Yes.
It's so good. The first time you see it, you're like, what?
Yeah, for sure. But then it's fun because every watch you have after that, you see little things that you're like, okay, I understand. Yeah,
the ones that preceded are not as good, but Sleepaway Camp 1 is really, really good.
Yeah, I would definitely say following that up and watching Sleepaway Camp 2 was the worst decision I could have made. But, once you accept that it's just, yes, it's camp, but it's campy, it's not top tier cinema, you can have a fun time.
Yeah. I don't remember when it was, but I got the box set, and then I was like, there's so many that I didn't even know existed. After 2, I had no idea there was 3, 4, and 5, I think. And I was like, wow. Okay.
They're so, especially, I think it's Sleepaway Camp 3, Teenage Wasteland. That one is so late 80s. It's ridiculous.
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, we are here to talk about Jawbreaker. It's not so much a horror or a slasher movie, but it is kind of in that
realm of things. Yeah.
Would you like to give just a super quick overview of the movie? Just
yeah, for sure. So Jawbreaker actually released in 1999. It follows 3 girls who every year for their friend's birthday, they do these surprises. I'm not good at remembering character names. I'll tell you that right now. But you have these 3 girls who always surprise their best friend on her birthday. Well, one year, the year that we see them in this movie, they surprise her and gag her with a jawbreaker, which then she swallows, chokes on, and passes away while they're in the midst of their birthday prank. And they go into this scheme of trying to get themselves out of the mess that they've made. But in the process, a girl named Fern, who isn't as popular as these 3 girls, find them, and they're like, you know what? If you were to just walk away right now, you'd be an accomplice. But instead, you keep our secret, and you can replace our friend. And so they make her popular, and it's a great spin on Heathers. If you've seen Heathers, And it also, everyone has seen Mean Girls, it's definitely Mean Girls-esque. So it's your classic, cult classic, shall I say, teen girl movie.
Agreed. I wrote down a few different movies that I thought it was a mixture of. So Carrie.
Yes.
And then I also put Clueless because they take in the new girl, they zhuzh her up.
Yeah.
And she gets all the attention and it starts to piss off the, current popular girls. So I thought it was kind of a mixture of all of those movies.
Yeah, I actually didn't consider Clueless, but the ending sequence of Jawbreaker definitely so heavy on the Carrie vibes.
Oh yeah, for sure. Let's see here. So is there any parts in the movie that like really just stand out that, you think of this movie and that's what you think of?
Well, for one, the opening title sequence, which takes place, I want to say like maybe 10 minutes into the movie. And it's just like the production of Jawbreakers, but it's so pretty to look at.
Yeah.
So that like in itself, also you have your stereotypical hallway scene of the girls walking down the hallway, all slow motion, but the music in this movie makes a scene like that so good, so addictive to watch. And I also think the scene of them kidnapping her is scary. I would watch this as a kid. I was obsessed with this movie as a kid. And I did think it was a horror movie at the time because that opening scene of them like gagging her and kidnapping her was so traumatizing.
So, yeah, that's really weird. And like later on in the movie, Julia says to, I can't remember the guy's name, but she's like, how girls will kidnap their friend on their birthday.
Right.
Like, who's doing this?
No, yeah, that's not a part of girlhood at all.
No.
I've never experienced that.
No, it's really weird. I'm like that. I've never seen that at all.
But it's great memories, I guess, until things go wrong. And that's when maybe you should not do it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've never really cared for Jawbreakers. I will eat the little ones, but very few and far between. I've never been like a huge fan of sitting there just licking on this giant ball.
Yeah. No, I'm an impatient eater and drinker. There's no such thing as savoring something for me.
Yeah, me neither.
If I have something good in front of me, I will eat it in 5 minutes or less. And same with drinks, especially iced coffee. I like a grande from Starbucks does not last very long.
Yeah, like when people are in commercials and they take like the most decadent little bite of a chocolate or a cookie. Yeah. I'm like, you could have eaten that in one bite. Like,
I know.
You set it down in the wrapper and savor it. Like, what are you doing?
And now you're wasting everyone's time.
Right? It's so weird. You can get to the next one and savor that one a little bit more.
Yeah. And I think also seeing this movie, I didn't want to consume Jawbreakers because there's also, like it's not a horror movie, but they play around with horror elements, I think. And so the one scene where it's like the kids and they're all like licking on the Jawbreakers and stuff like that, that scene is just a little like menacing, I guess.
Yeah.
A little haunting, and it doesn't make you want to consume Jawbreakers anymore.
Yeah, and they look like super bouncy balls to me. Like, which, I like a good super bouncy ball, but I don't want to put it in my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Well, actually, I probably did do that a few times when I was a kid. I definitely don't do it anymore.
I love how they say Liz is dead. Do you know what that means? Yeah, you're a shoo-in for prom queen. Like,
and they repeatedly, I think whenever they put her in the trunk and they were like, oh my gosh, she's gonna die. They kept repeating that. She's gonna die, as in like, she's going to die of laughter, or she's going to be, but not actually die until she does.
Yeah.
And I noticed that as I was watching it, because it's also when Rose McGowan's character is like, it's like, do you know what I would do to you if you did this to me? And they were like, yeah, you would kill us. It's like, okay, so why are you doing it to someone else?
Yeah, it seems like it's the first time they've ever done it, yet they act like they do it every year. So I'm like very confused on that. And do you get the sense that she did it on purpose? Like she was trying to like low key, like kill her?
I can see that, yeah, because it's also, she was obviously smart. She was smart in a like street sense kind of way. And I mean, common sense as well. She always knew what she was doing because she was very methodical with it. So it's like, you had to have known that sticking a jawbreaker in her mouth could not have gone well, and like, oh, I didn't want her to scream. I mean, you made a pretty big scene dragging her out of her house anyway. Yeah. So if she were to scream, Yeah,
it's ridiculous. And you taped up her mouth. So, you didn't need to add the jawbreaker to it.
No. And okay, well, the other girls, whenever she opened the trunk and saw that, Liz had choked and died, they were like, you put a jawbreaker in her mouth?
Yeah.
And I'm confused why you didn't know this, because I don't see how you could have snuck that by.
Right.
I don't know.
Unless they were too busy tying up her wrists and her feet while she was doing that, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Then of course, Rose McGowan's character says, I thought it would be funny. And it's like, no, I just don't, you knew. She had to have known, really. Because if she's now a shoo-in for prom queen, does that mean that Liz was originally prom queen and she wanted that spot?
Yeah.
There's the ulterior motive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but everything about her doesn't seem like she would want to be prom queen. Like she's like too cool for school. She's like this bad girl, but deep down she just wants to be the most popular person. She's pissed that Liz is more popular.
Yeah, and I think because she is someone who just is looking for power. She just wants power, and of course she gets that by reigning the school. Everyone is afraid of her. And she takes Fern under her wings, and Fern kind of looks up to her until she doesn't. So I feel like had this been made more in modern times, it wouldn't have been prom queen. It would have been like student body president, because I think at that time, the biggest achievement that a high school girl could get was prom queen. And so it's like, now we see that teenage girls are more than capable of doing other things rather than prom queen.
Well, there's also homecoming queen. So,
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. How could I forget? But I think I almost wonder if they did the whole prom queen motive, or just, like narrative choice to fit in the Carrie inspirations.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. How can you go to school after you do that?
I really don't think that she did. I don't think she goes back.
Like, how can you kill your friend and then just immediately go to first period? Like,
oh, I see what you mean. I thought you were talking about after the whole prom thing.
Yeah,
okay.
No.
Okay, I'm here with you now. You know, I think that there are a few wires that aren't completely connected in her brain. And yeah, I mean, I think that who was Rebecca Gayheart? What was her character's name? Julie. I think she was the most sane out of all of them.
Yes, yeah.
But then the other, like the blonde one, she was the most disconnected. And then you had Rose McGowan's character, who it was just like she was so detached from all emotion at all.
Yeah. Yeah, like none of them cried, which is weird.
No, Julie was the only one who cried.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that her character makes for like that perfect, I'm trying to find a character to compare her to. I guess she kind of makes the perfect, like, who's that? Oh my gosh, why am I blanking right now? Veronica from Heathers.
Yeah.
How, you know, she does withdraw from the group and she starts to try to find ways to defeat them.
Or the girl from Carrie. I can't think of what her name was, but the one that was nice to Carrie. You know?
Yes. Yeah.
Kind of that situation. But it's just like, it's weird because she always says that she is Liz's best friend, but really Julie is Liz's best friend. It seems to me, because if she's your best friend, I feel like you would be upset.
Like, yeah, right.
You know,
well, and I think that she represents the most stereotypical mean girl queen bee that there could be, really. Because I think in other movies like this, like Mean Girls, for example, you see a more human side to the mean girl after all. But Rose McGowan's character, you don't see humanity within her one bit. And that's why, like, she just has an emotional detachment from everything. Like, she's your best friend in theory, but in reality, you have no emotional attachment to her.
You want to know what I would love to see? A movie that had her character, Rose McGowan's character from this, has Regina George and Tom Tom from 13 Going on 30. Just like have them as like office women and see what happens. I
think then you would have a horror movie.
Probably right.
I don't think all of them would survive a year working in the same office with each other. But then you're also crossing universes because the actress who played Tom Tom also plays Fern.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that could be a great fan movie if anyone out there wants to take that on.
I'm trying to think of like who else would. Oh, their boss could be. The Devil Wears Prada. Meryl Streep.
No, because I would be scared to work in that office. Like being just a simple intern, I probably would quit my first day.
Right. But
there'd be way too many women, first of all, in power, but just wanting more power.
Yeah. Then we have to get the boy from Game of Thrones, right? The crazy kid that's just, kills everybody. Gotta have him in there.
Actually do not watch Game of Thrones. I've never seen Game of Thrones, and I know it is such a great tragedy.
It's okay. I didn't see it till the last season. Like the day we got caught up was the first episode. So
oh my gosh.
Worries.
Okay.
No worries.
Yeah, I know like simple references. I know like the last names of characters, but the only thing that I was really caught up on was actually House of Dragon. And it was when those two actors were talking about like Negroni. And that's all I know about anything within the Game of Thrones universe.
Well, I haven't watched that yet. That show. So we have Judy Greer. She plays Fern and a Violet. And right. I love Judy Greer. She's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan. And something that so typically when I watch the movies, I will go to IMDb and kind of look at trivia, and I'll just pick out a few things, but I don't really try to look up too much because I just like to talk about the movies. And just my thoughts and feelings. But I found this and I thought it was really interesting. So there's two things. So one, that Judy Greer, she said that when she was dressed as Fern, nobody on the set paid her attention. When she transformed into Violet, all of a sudden everyone paid attention to her. However, the men seemed more timid while approaching her while she was Violet.
Wow.
And all I could think is, have you ever seen What Women Want?
I don't think so, no.
So in What Women Want, the main guy, he can hear what women are thinking. And in the movie, she plays a receptionist at this at his work. And she is always kind of like just in the background, and every time he crosses her, she has something funny that she's thinking in her head. And at one point, she's like, if I just left, no one would notice. Like, everybody hates me. I just want to kill myself. Like, it was this whole big thing. Yeah. And then she calls out of work one day, and he's like, oh my God, where's that funny girl? And people are like, who? And they're like, the girl. And no one really knows who he's talking about. And he finally finds her. He saves her. She's fine. She was actually just sick, but he thought she was going to kill herself.
Yeah.
And that's all I could think when I saw her as Fern. I was like, oh God, she's like her character in that other movie. Because, you know, like no one gives her a time of day. And I just thought that was really interesting when I saw that. And then also Rose McGowan said that she acted more like Violet behind the scenes than she did. Then she was like Fern. So she was making it sound like she wasn't very nice. And I have read a lot of things about Judy Greer. I listened to her biography, and nothing have I ever heard of her that she was a bitch or that she's rude. And I just thought, Rose McGowan, of all the two of you, I've heard way worse things about you. So I was just like, I don't know if that's true or not.
Wow. Yeah. No, but that is on set tea for sure. Right. I actually, both of those are interesting, but the Judy Greer costume change is, I don't know. It's surprising because at the end of the day, you still know who that is, you know, like as someone who's working on the set, who's a part of the production, like you still know that's Judy Greer at the end of the day. So then why does your perception of her change? Like just considering what she's wearing? Cause I feel like no matter, like if Judy Greer was in front of me, I mean, she's not an actress who I would absolutely like die for, but still like, I would know that's Judy Greer. I'm standing right in front of Judy Greer. I'm going to be intimidated no matter whether she's wearing clogs or pink pumps. Like
exactly. And I also thought this little tidbit was funny. So her last name is Greer. It's Greer. And then Pam Grier is Grier. Yeah. And she said on set, she goes, my last name is Greer too. And Pam looked at her up and down and responded, I don't think we're related.
I love Pam Grier though. And honestly, of course, I at the time, like when I was first exposed to this movie, I had no idea who Pam Grier was.
Yeah.
But watching it being older, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Pam Grier.
Yeah.
And I feel like she's always in roles where she's this sort of like, I mean, whenever she was in her roles in the 70s, she was always playing like this badass detective or some sort of like high profile character who's just looking to crack down on a case. And whenever she has the Jawbreaker in her hand and then she smacks it on the table, that's a little scary.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Right? I was like, this is coming out of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and just like on a metal table too, the echo, I almost wonder if their jumps were real I think it was just Rose McGowan's character who that like is in that scene.
Yeah.
But I wonder if her jump is authentic because I would probably jump every single time it happened.
Right. Yeah. Like, I don't know if I was a detective and this was my case, I don't know if I would automatically be like, the friends did it. And I don't know if she automatically thinks that, but the way she's talking to them makes you think that she has zoned in on them and that she has tons of evidence that they did it. But she doesn't.
Yeah.
So it's really strange.
I think it's easy to point to the friends because I was actually reading a little bit on the movie. I do enjoy reading up on movies after I watch them, of course.
Yeah.
But the director was talking about how he really wanted the angle he wanted to write this film from was like about girlhood and being like a teen girl in high school and like the way that it can compare to being a Jawbreaker and how it can like, he said like how it can, like break your jaw pretty much. But like, it's kind of like that switch between girlhood and like teen girlhood kind of where, teen girls can become so much more catty and so much more cliquey and they're willing to go above and beyond and harm people in the process to get what they want. Most of the time it can be popularity or whatever the case is. And so I thought that comparing it to a Jawbreaker also was an interesting analogy. I was reading about the costumes too and how the colors of their costumes, the brightness of it, they wanted it to come across as if they were the Jawbreakers themselves.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah, costume design isn't something that I typically pay attention to because it does have to do a lot with like color theory and stuff like that. But I do love when it's more blatant, I guess, where I don't have to have an art degree to understand the depths of it.
I just want to know, in all these movies, do they ever go, do high school kids actually wear this kind of stuff? Because they don't.
Yeah.
Because every time I see an outfit, I'm just like, that wouldn't be allowed in school.
I too thought about that. But for one, this movie feels like a fever dream. Like there's no part of it that feels real. But I also, the costumes for this movie are supposed, like they were, I was looking at the background actors for different scenes and everyone is dressed differently. Like the guy that Julie is seeing, he's dressed very 70s. Whereas I saw another couple in the background who were dressed a little bit more 60s.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't think there is a single character in this movie that's dressed to the time that they're making it, but it's intentional. So it's like, okay, I I can agree with it for the time being. But yeah, upon like your first watch, it definitely, I think it just comes across very campy. Like it's not taking itself serious.
Yeah.
So it's hard for you to take it serious as a viewer.
I think the only people who were dressed more like the times would have to be the goth kids. Just
right. Yeah.
like that seems about the right time frame. You know, and then of course, like some of the other, like, Ashley Banks, I can't think of her name all of a sudden. Ali. She was in the movie. She was just like kids were dressed during that time period. But I got from like, especially Rose McGowan's character, she looked very like pinup girl style. And then her friends were just kind of like how movies in that time frame always depict girls dressing. Like they always looked like they were going to a work event. Like they didn't wear what kids wore in school, which is really weird. Like I didn't see a ton of girls wearing pencil skirt dresses and things like that.
No. Like, well, I also, my time in high school was in like 2014. So I definitely wasn't seeing any girls dressed in pencil skirts.
No.
But I do like there's like almost like a surreal feel to the movie because of how just like all the pops of colors and also the delivery of lines. Like Rose McGowan, she took her inspiration from an actress. I don't know who the actress is. I've never seen her movie either, but the movie was from, I think, like 1924. And she took the inspiration from that movie, and that helped her to prepare for this role. And I mean, watching Rose McGowan and the way that she's delivering her lines and just like her facial expressions and everything, it is very dramatic. And I think in the scene where she's with her boyfriend and then that's when the police come and like knock on her door, every time she's trying to be cheeky or like seductive, she does this eyebrow raise. And after a while, it gets on my nerves because you can do so much more with your face to get your point across rather than just raise your eyebrows.
Right. She does deliver one line really well, and I saw some stuff about it, but it was the life's a bitch and then you die. Just kind of like, you know, there it is. Apparently she didn't want to say the line, and so she kind of just said it that way, just like very muted, and apparently people loved it.
Wow. That's surprising considering who she was dating at the time.
Yeah. Marilyn Manson.
And when I tell you, I found out that it was Marilyn Manson today. Up until today, I had no idea that was Marilyn Manson, because I'm also so used to seeing him in like his makeup.
Yeah.
So to see him out of that and to also learn that they were dating, like, I get the heebie-jeebies.
Right. Yeah.
But super weird. Through learning that, so I was reading, and the only way that the director could get this movie produced by the company that produced it was if he was able to cast either Natalie Portman, Rose McGowan, or there was one other like popular 90s actress at the time that they were like, you have to cast one of these girls as like that specific character.
Oh, wow.
And then also bringing Marilyn Manson onto the production, even as like the side character or whatever, still kind of upped the value of the movie for the production company. And I think that really kind of puts into perspective just the value of certain actresses at the time as well.
Yeah. And then we find out that Julie and Fern were childhood friends.
Mm.
And,
Yeah.
you know, that seems, I guess that's why she always knew her name and everybody else like, who's Fern?
Mm-hmm. And I think that movies like this, especially I feel like up until maybe the 2010s, you have movies like this that depict the separation of childhood best friends as something that has to be super traumatic and like sad and heartbreaking and also like pitiful. You know, it's always one of the friends is at the very bottom tier of the high school food chain while the other one has climbed the ranks. And now it's just like a pity that they say hi to their other friends. But I think this movie actually kind of does it a little bit different. Like, Julie has never once not said hi to Fern. She's never thought that she was better than Fern. Of course, Rose McGowan's character definitely is like, why are you saying hi to her?
Yeah.
But that doesn't stop Julie from doing it. And I think that's what sets her apart from her other friend, the blonde-haired girl, because the blonde-haired girl blindlessly just follows Rose McGowan's character, will do anything she says, anything she wants. And Julie knows where to draw the line. And we see that in this movie.
Exactly. Like, I hate those blind sheep. I've never been a fan of that. I also hate in movies where, so Fern is pretending to be Violet and then everybody finds out and all of a sudden everybody hates her. I'm like, you were just worshiping her. She's the same damn person. Like, why is it that big of a deal? You'd be like, okay, cool. Now you're cool.
And that's one thing. That's why I feel like this movie is very intentional with the things it's doing. Like, while it comes across as like campy and corny, they know exactly what tropes they're depicting. And the conversation between I guess her nickname is Foxy. Foxy and her dad, the blonde girl, they're talking and the dad is like, I was watching Oprah today and she's like, oh my God, Dad. And he was like, and you know what they were talking about? They were talking about your kids being followers. And Oprah asked, is your kid a follower? And I said, yes, Oprah, my kid is a follower. And he's trying to remind her. He's like, do you remember the Tiffany concert? Do you remember how excited you were? And I was so excited to take you. And she's so dismissive of him. And she doesn't want to be reminded of that time in her life.
Yeah.
And I mean, at that time of any teenage girl's life, most cases, you don't want to remember those quote unquote cringy times of your childhood.
Yeah.
And he points out, you know, that she is a follower, that she is a quote unquote sheep to Rose McGowan's character.
Yeah.
And it doesn't change her either. And I think that's another part. Like, there isn't a redemption arc for her. She's still a follower up until the prom scene, where while she's not following, she's lost now that she doesn't have anyone to follow.
Yeah. And, you know, like, I have never been the person that has like a guilty pleasure song. I like the song because I like the song. I don't get in, like, I will tell you, I love New Kids on the Block. I don't care.
And
and I don't get why people are so like, oh, like, you like what you like. Who cares? If you want to be a fan of Tiffany, be a fan of Tiffany. I have friends who are huge, and I mean huge fans of Hanson. They travel the country and follow Hanson. And they're like married with kids. Just, you know?
But I think a part of that has to do with nostalgia. I'm sure that Foxy now would look back at her Tiffany concert and say, wow, I did have a good time.
Yeah.
I did love going to that concert. And she probably listens to Tiffany now. I think as you get older, you do just embrace those parts of your childhood that you tried so hard to like distance yourself from. I will forever take pride in being a One Direction fan when One Direction was still together. I will never not be proud of that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I don't think it should be something that we're embarrassed by or, you know, can't tell your friends. Like, if you can't tell your best friends that you love something, then they're not your best friends.
Nope.
Listen, children, they're not your best friends.
No. If you feel like you can't be your true, authentic self around someone that you consider a friend, maybe you should reconsider that in general, whether that's a best friend or just a friend that you like to hang around.
Yeah.
If you feel like you have to hide certain parts of yourself, like that's miserable. In my opinion, I would be miserable.
Yeah, me too. You know, I say let your freak flag fly, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this part bothers me. So when Julie and her man go to look for evidence, they literally look for 2 seconds and then like, well, it's not here. Like, Julie, put in some effort.
Yeah, that
just, you know, it's a picture. It could have flown away. Like, maybe go walk a few steps, see where it is. You could have easily found it.
Yeah, I mean, the picture could have very well flown with the wind as it was falling to the ground. Like, just, you know, did she really want to find evidence?
Yeah.
I guess that's the question for the ages. Her
little 2 seconds of looking shows me that she didn't care.
Yeah. But another one part that did bother me, I mean, it's a very nitpicky thing. Of course, she had to act like this is the first time hearing that Liz had died.
Yeah.
But when her mom comes out, her mom is devastated. Mm-hmm. And it's like she's hearing it for the first time all over again.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, she's selling it to her mother, but I'm like, don't pretend like you didn't have any hand in it. Don't pretend like you're innocent.
Yeah. And one thing else that bothered me, this is so nitpicky, but when Courtney finds out that she won prom queen, and then everybody hears that she killed Liz.
Yeah.
She starts walking off the stage, and we have Ashley Banks and all these other people right at the front of the stage. And as she's walking, she's getting towards the exit. They are there in front of the exit. I'm like, how did you get from the front of the stage to there? You were just at the front of the stage. So how'd that happen? That bothered me.
That part of the scene doesn't bother me as much as all of them throwing their boutonnieres as if they're throwing rocks at her. And she's like completely distraught, acting like they're stoning her. And I'm like, the boutonnieres do not hurt that bad.
Well,
like,
unless they have the pins in them. That's the only thing. Because we thought that too. And then I thought, well, maybe it has the pin in there sticking.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that would make sense. I also just don't like her hair.
Right?
For that scene either.
Yeah, I hate that silver thing in her hair. If you knew you were pretty sure that you were going to win, wouldn't you have your hair like perfect?
Yeah, and you can see progressively throughout that scene her hair falling. Yeah. Like at the beginning of it, it's very high, very pristine, and like she just came out of the hair salon with it. But then as she's on stage, it is done for. And that's the worst part. Like, you don't want to go to the bathroom and make sure your hair looks good before they announce it.
Yeah. The Craft. That's the other movie it reminds me of. It's very similar to The Craft.
I can see that, yeah. Because of the bringing the fourth girl in.
Yeah. And shunning her. And,
yeah.
All that. Basically, she's Nancy. She's losing her mind. That's why her hair's all disheveled.
Yeah. That scene also was scary to me as a kid because of the way she looks at the very end.
Yeah.
I feel like they didn't have to make her look that jarring, but they did. Like, she's pulling her face backwards. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, it's this really weird view of her. And it's so weird. But I think that adds to the tone of the movie as well.
Yeah.
I really do like that scene, though. I like the slow motion.
Mm-hmm.
I like how you see everyone's faces as she's walking from the stage. I do think her boyfriend could have reacted a little bit better than he did. Like, the way he reacted,
yeah,
you would think that he just found out she cheated on him, not that she murdered a girl.
Yeah, and their relationship's weird because she doesn't even seem like she likes him. So
definitely not. Definitely not. She is the dominant one in the relationship. She had won for the MTV Awards. She had won she was up in the running for Best Villain, but then she lost to Matt Dillon, which was terrible. That's terrible. I don't even know what movie that was from. I don't know what he did in that movie, but I know she actually deserved that award. But she is a good villain.
Yeah, she is.
Wow, I hated her.
Yeah. She plays bitch really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when it's weird when she is not and she's being like the nice girl and you're just like, are you though? Because you're usually the villain.
Yeah, and that's, I think, especially her role here and her role in Scream remind me very much of each other, minus the fact that I think she is more animated in this movie, especially with her facial expressions. Yeah. But the way that she delivers lines is pretty much the same.
I will say, you like her in Scream, and you're sad that she dies. In this movie, I'm not sad that anything happened to her. Hit her with all the flowers. I'm okay with it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. But she is iconic in her own way, especially with some of her lines that she delivers. It's like, she's the teen dream. But her staging Liz's death was one of the most horrendous things anyone could have done. And that's why I say I don't think she has any emotions whatsoever, because how does a person do that? Do what she did? That is crazy.
Like, how does your brain go to that first? Like she's maniacal. That's the only way that I can make sense of it, is she is maniacal. On top of that, hooking up with Marilyn Manson. Yeah.
Like, no, you're just making bad decision after bad decision.
And having sex in a room that a dead body's in. Just
right above the dead body.
And the fact that the dude was okay with it. I mean,
did he even know? That's the thing. I don't know if he knew.
Oh, I thought she was like laying just on the ground.
Liz was laying underneath the bed. So I almost wonder,
okay.
I think Courtney had to have taken Liz's body, put it underneath the bed, and then went to whatever club bar she went to and picked up the Marilyn Manson man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something also that's weird is Fern becomes a head cheerleader and the star of the play.
And at what point of the movie? When do we see this?
Yeah, we never see her. We see her with the cheerleaders, but I never see her as a cheerleader. And then we just see her go to the play or to the theater and then just walk away.
And she's like, I'm in the play now. And we're just supposed to believe her.
Yeah.
But the guy that Julie's with, he says a line that is in every single teen movie I can think of. He's like, athletes and theater don't mix. It's like plaids and stripes. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, can you be any more original?
Right.
He's like, that's a first. You're a cheerleader and in theater. Like, we've seen this so many times. I mean, I know High School Musical came after this movie, but I think in terms of this conversation, High School Musical is winning. Right.
Speaking of other teen movies, the Donnas. I've actually seen them in concert, but they were in another movie that I've seen many, many times. And I'm just like, they were all over these movies, but I don't think they were ever actually that super popular. Like, I don't think I ever heard them on the radio, but I saw them in movies.
Yeah, I felt that way with a lot of I mean, I could be wrong only because my birth year is 1999.
Oh, shut up.
I know. But like, I felt that way with a lot of the artists on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of all of the songs right now, but I know like Veruca Salt. I think, that one, that's like the title of the song, but I listened to that artist specifically. And I mean, those are considered like, what's the word? Like, I think it's like kitty rock or kitten rock or something like that. But it's just like heavy, like women rock, like punk rock of the 90s. And yeah, you didn't hear a lot of it on the radio, but it was one of those like underground things where they were popular amongst the right crowd.
Yeah, because they were in the movie Drive Me Crazy. They were on...
Oh my gosh, with Melissa...
Joan Hart.
Oh, I love that movie. Is that in the scene where like the guy is in the bar with his ex-girlfriend and like there's a band performing on stage? Mm-hmm. Okay, wow. I didn't know that was them, but I love that movie. I had a whole obsession with it.
Yeah, I love that movie. It's so good. It doesn't get as much respect, I think, as it should.
Yeah.
But I love that movie. And they're on the soundtrack to Freaky Friday.
Oh.
And they're in another soundtrack to another movie, and I don't know what it is. I can't remember. But I saw them when they were touring when Maroon 5 first came out. And they were like their opening act. So I got to see them many moons ago.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey, I know who the Donnas are.
And that's something that
movies.
I really like about 90s movies, even early 2000s movies. Like, I think Hollywood, like cinema's connection with the music industry was so much closer than it is now.
Yeah.
You would have actual bands on screen performing at, like in certain scenes. I recently watched Queen of the Damned, and watching, Stuart Townsend sing for Chester Bennington. And I was like, this voice doesn't look like it's coming from you. Like, it was really bothering me. I get the point why they did it, but I would have just liked to see the actual band play at that point.
Right. Yeah. I feel like, they don't make teenage comedies anymore or teen movies. And it's very sad because it was such a time in like, especially in my life. I love teenage comedies. And it's sad that they don't. And if they do, it's usually on Netflix instead of, in the theater.
Yeah. And I remember being a teenager and complaining how like all of the teen movies or teen shows that we had were played by adults. And so it was so unrealistic because nobody that I'm in school with looks like this. Yeah. But then like now we don't have good teen movies because adults aren't playing teenagers anymore. Right. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like when you have a teen comedy that's starring actual teens, they can only go so far with the comedy and the crudeness until it is like inappropriate for the kids within the movie.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of people were saying that Do Revenge on Netflix reminded them of the early 2000s teen comedies that we used to get. And it was a pretty good movie for, it's definitely not an early 2000s like movie, but I think the writing was pretty good. You had the color palette there. You had, like the dialogue there, the relationships there, all of it. And then there's also another movie that's actually coming out soon that's called Bottoms. And it's like a lot of younger, like more, I call them indie actors because you don't typically see them in very large budgeted films.
Yeah.
But Kaya Gerber, what's her name? Gerber, like Cindy Crawford's daughter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's going to be in it. And it has a very heavy, like early 2000s influence on it. And it's a teen-ish comedy.
That's cool. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, it looks like it's actually going to be funny because sometimes they're not actually funny.
Yeah. So how did you come to find this movie since you were born like right before it came out?
Yeah. Well, my aunt actually introduced me to a lot of the movies that are so memorable to me, like Halloween. That's something we continue to bond over today. And Jawbreaker was one of them. She had the DVD and I used to watch it all the time until I just eventually stole it from her and claimed it as my own. And I mean, yeah, it was just through the physical media and, the physical media that she had herself. And I think, part of the appeal for it was just the brightness of it. Mm-hmm. And I think it was like, I think the best word for me to describe it was perplexing. Like it wasn't like other movies I had seen, like Freaky Friday. It wasn't like, it was similar to Mean Girls, but the tone was so different. There was something, it was like there was a flaw, but I couldn't figure out what the flaw was. And watching it as I get older, I understand why I was so confused by it, but that confusion was intriguing as well. Mm-hmm. And because Fern and the way that she talks about Liz has never sat right with me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, she's talking about her unlike any of the other girls in this movie are talking about Liz. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me.
I think she's talking about her very much like how people were enamored with Regina and Mean Girls. They're like, she punched me in the face. It was awesome. Like, it's that kind of thing. Like, she's just the be all end all. And she was nice. She was a nice, popular girl. And she saw Fern. And I think that really stuck with her. And I think she was just more enamored with her. Nowadays, it would have been like she was in love with her and all that stuff. But I think she was in love with the idea of her.
Yeah. Well, I think she's in love with her. And I think it's similar in the way of like how people, like with Jennifer's Body, and how in that movie they're constantly talking about how Needy is gay for Jennifer, and they're constantly calling. They're like one girl constantly interjects in Needy's conversations, and she's like, oh, "Let's be honest," like, and making little remarks like that. And to me, it doesn't make. I mean, it makes sense for the time in which the movie is produced, but narratively, it doesn't make sense to include that unless there are some like subtext that you're not wanting the audience to completely see for themselves, if that makes sense. And so like, this movie is no different, because they're constantly, whenever they see Julie and Fern together, they start making lesbian jokes about them. And then when Julie sees Liz in the pool, remember, she's swimming in the pool. First of all, I love that scene just because of how ethereal it looks, and the music that's playing too. It's such a pretty scene. But your friend just died. Why are you seeing her in the pool as if she's like a supermodel on Sports Illustrated magazine?
Yeah.
I just, there were certain things that contextually I was like, I think there's something else going on here. But it's definitely one of those things where you can see it either way, both ways. And it all still like, it adds to the narrative in different ways.
Well, and also, you have to remember, either right or wrong, during the late 90s, early 2000s, like, being gay was not something people were willing to come out,
Yeah.
And so people thought the worst thing you could be is gay. And so having people in movies, be like, well, I can't say anything. Like, probably Fern was in love with her, or she had a girl crush. Maybe she was bisexual, but that wasn't okay to be bisexual. So they weren't gonna, she had to be ashamed of it or whatever it may be, or they could only allude to it because they didn't want people to be like, oh, look, there's a gay character. Oh no.
Yeah. And this curiosity led me to look into the director, because I was like, that's my confirmation for me. I'm like, my theory is only right if the person who wrote it is A, a woman, or B, gay themselves.
Yeah.
And that can be, like, they can be both a woman and gay, or one of the other. So I looked into the director. Not only is he openly gay, but did you ever see that movie that came out, I think it's 2015, called GBF?
Oh, yes. Yes, I did.
Yeah, he's the same director and writer for that movie too. And I was like, yeah, I feel like something else is going on here.
Yeah. Because I'm sure that feeling that Fern had towards Liz is probably how he felt towards the, football player at the school.
Yeah.
Or the prom king or whatever it may be. But he couldn't express it then, as he probably could now. And then that's unfortunate that a lot of kids they had to suppress stuff like that. Like, there's tons of kids that have come out since I was in school that I probably would have been like, oh, they're super gay. Like, but they weren't out and you weren't going to make them. So,
yeah. And looking into just information on the movie itself, you can tell how much the director truly valued this project of his. Like, he kept, and some could consider it, riding off the back of it until the wheels fall off. But I think that he really was just so proud of the story he created, and he wanted to see it continue any way that it could. Because, I would like to see this story taken and evolved into something else. And he tried to get a TV show, and this was recent. That was in 2017. He tried to get a TV show.
Oh, wow.
He also tried to get a musical of it with Elizabeth Gillies from Victorious. And I think most recently she's on some show. It's like a country singer show, fictional show. But she was in it, and JoJo, the R&B / pop singer from like 2002.
Right.
Yeah. And so it was them two and one other girl who I don't think I know who she is, but I was just imagining like getting a musical would have probably been so fun. We have a Mean Girls musical now. Yeah. Why can't we have a Jawbreaker musical?
Right. That would be fun. Have you ever seen the movie Sugar and Spice?
Sugar and Spice.
I think it's Sugar and Spice.
No, but it is definitely in my list.
Yeah. It's about girls who are cheerleaders and they rob a bank.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so fun.
Yeah, it's kind of, I want to say it's sort of like this movie, but it's I don't think anybody dies. But
yeah, it's a little bit more tame.
Yeah, it's a group of cheerleaders and something happens and they need money and they rob banks. Yeah.
That reminds me of the show Good Girls, which it's not cheerleaders, they're mothers, but that's what makes it so much better.
Exactly.
I love that show.
I watched the first season and or maybe I watched just a few episodes. I did like it, and then I don't know why I stopped watching. But I did enjoy the show. I should probably get back on that.
Yeah, the last season was, I think it was the 4th season that was the last one. So you have all the time in the world to catch up because there's not going to be any more seasons.
Well, that's good, I guess. Unless you really like the show, and then that's sad.
No, it definitely was sad. But I think what's more sad is I don't like when shows get canceled at a part where like you need to know more about what's happening in the story,
Yeah.
They didn't end the season with like a closed note. They ended it with an open note.
Ugh,
so it's like, I'll never know the answers to these things, but oh well.
Unless they come back in a few years on streaming, which is probably what they're thinking.
Yeah, maybe. I did hear that there were some cast feuds. So they might have to do some recast if that happens.
Oh, that's weird. Was that like the 3 main girls don't like each other? Or?
No, it's actually Christina Hendricks and the guy who, I don't even know what his name is right now, but the like guy who's, oh my gosh, who's blackmailing them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, even though they they have a little thing going on in between them, like their characters, but in real life, they just can't agree on things.
Ooh, wow. That sucks.
Yeah.
Was it the Hispanic guy?
Mm-hmm.
I think they have really good chemistry.
I know. And you know what? It's always the ones who have the best chemistry that actually don't like each other in real life.
Well, that's why it's that anger and that, anger is passion sometimes.
Yeah.
So is there anything else on this movie that you like or that you hate?
I honestly don't. I think it's one of those movies that I see as, okay, and this is, my definition of camp is not going to meet everybody else's definition, but in my opinion, it's camp. Therefore, it isn't bad to me. I didn't rate it a 5 stars, but it is a solid 4 stars.
Okay.
For me, because it's such a fun watch. Each character is iconic in their own ways. And I feel like movies now, it almost feels like movies now are afraid to be silly and goofy the way that this movie is. Like I said before, this movie doesn't take itself too seriously because of its like satirical kind of kind of like edge to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun to watch and not feel like you're being scolded for being a teenage girl or, whatever the case is. Like, it's just a fun time, a great like sleepover movie. Something like that. Especially, oh my gosh, like the movie Sleepover. Like, those are just fun movies to watch with like your group of friends.
Yeah. I've seen that movie. It's
good.
So if we were at a slumber party and you had to pick a character to be, which one would you be?
I want to say Liz because at least I can do no wrong.
Oh,
if I'm just living in memory, I can do no wrong and my memory is frozen in time. I was the teenage dream.
Well, now she's dead, so.
Yeah. I mean, and I also, either her or maybe the goth girl. The goth girl was kind of cool. The main four girls, in like, honestly, I feel like there's just no substance there for me.
Yeah.
Courtney is maniacal, scary. If I was her, I would be scared of me.
Mm-hmm.
Foxy, I just can't be a follower like that.
Yeah, no.
And Julie, I can search a crime scene better than she can.
Right.
So there's no way that I would be Julie in this situation. And Fern, like, I just feel like she didn't take her position of power and do good with it.
Yeah.
She did bad and then she did good. And yeah, I don't know. I'd definitely say goth girl or Liz.
If I had to pick one, I would probably, like, I would want to say Julie. But I know me. So I would say, I'd have to say Fern. I'm not Violet, and I wouldn't be Violet.
Yeah.
But I would definitely would be a Vern. Just
okay.
like in the background, just be like, why is my
just
old
going
best
to botany
friend?
club?
Yeah, like
yeah. I think also Principal Taylor, I think that's her last name, Principal Taylor.
Yeah.
She's a great character to aspire to be. She is leading the botany club's annual gala.
Yeah.
And she's running that school and it's admirable.
I do like her. Yeah.
Yeah. I think is she the mom from Lizzie McGuire? No. Right?
No.
Okay.
She's in a lot of stuff though.
Yeah. I feel like she's definitely been in Disney Channel stuff specifically that I've seen. But yeah, she always plays that kind of character. Like, she's sweet but then she isn't whenever she like speaks to you.
So we rate our movies out of 10 and then we pick something from the movie. So let's just say you wanted to rate it 6 out of 10 red cars. Mm-hmm. So you can pick out of 10, what would you rate this movie?
I will say I'm going to go 8 out of 10.
All right. Well, I would have to rate this movie a 7 out of 10. Die, bitch. That's what I'm. Yeah. Go with that.
I think that is a very good one. That is a very good one. I'm trying to think of like a little thing from the movie that would be suitable for this. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I can't think of a little blurb from the movie at all.
Picture cards. No.
So true. Okay, no. I have it. Okay, I will rate it 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. She's gonna die. There we go.
There we go. I love it. So if people want to message you and ask you about your favorite horror movie, where can they find you?
You can find me at Your Horror Podcast. That is UR Horror Podcast. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. I do act a fool on TikTok, but you can reach out to me anywhere. My DMs are open everywhere except for Twitter because, Twitter's weird. But feel free to at me on there if you want to. But yeah, I, of course, always want to talk to more movie fans, horror fans. If you're looking for suggestions, whatever it is, I am here because it is Your Horror Podcast.
Awesome. And if you want to reach out to me and ask or tell me what your favorite part of this movie is, you can find me at Two Chicks Talkin Flicks at Gmail and Two Chicks Talkin Flicks on all platforms except for Twitter because we don't tweet. So thank you so much for being on. This was
of course,
so
thank you
fun.
so much for having me, Sarah.
Yes, it was great. I hadn't seen this movie in a really long time, so I was excited to watch it.
Well, I'm glad that I could offer the blast from the past.
Yes, thank you so much. And until next time, toodles. This episode was produced by Two Chicks Talkin Flicks. Music was produced by Michael Giovanni. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to be a part of the show, have a movie suggestion, or just want to give us some love, you can email us at twochickstalkinflicks@gmail.com. Thanks, guys. Toodles.